G'day everyone, Anthony here. Excuse the long delay between videos. Work's been a little bit busy and I've, also had some other stuff going on which has taken a bit of time. But thank you very much for everyone who sent messages through, comments and questions. They are all going on a list where I'm going to try to work my way through. And it is really good to know what people are interested in, so it'll drive future videos. But this one here is actually driven off something that occurred at the office the other day. Going to look at enumeration knobs. So let's bring up a group quickly. The enumeration knob, I'm using a fancy word for it, which will become apparent in a second, is the cascading pull-down choice, right? Which is basically a drop-down. So let's drop down. So a drop-down basically gives you options between a number of things here. Oops, E, F, G. So I've just got letters here. So there we are. Nothing you haven't seen before. I'm sure all of you have used this at some point or wanted to use this at some point. All right, so in the thing here, while they call it a cascading pull down choice, we're going to refer to it as a drop down or an enumeration. That word is hard to pronounce sometimes, so let's keep that up. So let's do this Pythonically. Now, in order to create one of these things, we need the standard things for a knob, which is what do you want to call it, in terms of Python, what do you want to display, and what value should it take in this case? Because a drop down, an enumeration, is a list of options. So let's go with something slightly silly. Let's go with cheese. Right? So I'm going to do cheeses that I rather enjoy. So Conte, I do like a nice sharp crumbly cheddar. Do really enjoy, I've been watching a bunch of StarCraft 2 replays. I do enjoy a good Protoss Cannon Rush. Those are fun. And Stilton, which I can't really get here, but well, I can, but it's a bit of a Brunost. And this, weirdly enough, I actually do like Brunost. Yeah. So, a bunch of cheeses. Now, we need to create the knob. So let's do this. Cheese knob. And this is why I called it an enumeration knob. Because that's what Nuke calls it internally. Oops, not an end tab group. Enumeration knob. Right, so we give it a name. We're going to call it cheese. We're going to display this cheeses I like. And we're going to give it our list of value. Cheese. So let's build our knob. So that knob is now built. This knob now needs to be assigned to the node. So we just do the node add knob. Cheese knob. And like magic, it appears. So this is roughly how you do any knob addition to, or knob creation and stuff for any Nuke nodes, right? So we've got our list of things here. It doesn't have to be an enumeration knob. It can be a text knob. It can be any sort of thing. So you can do nuke tab knob, nuke.text knob, nuke.int knob. You'll find all those in the documentation. It'll have a full list, so you can go through those and just add them to your heart's content. One thing to note, why is that X? Okay, so this, I ran everything through here again, so I've got another copy of the knob. So I'll just quickly put a grade node down here. If I want to add the, if I want to do this, if I add the cheese node to this grade node, it'll actually complain, by the way, right? This is not a template for a knob. This is actually the knob I see here. So this knob here is the cheese knob here. So it's, if you want to add the same type of knob to multiple things, you actually have to make multiple copies of this thing. You don't need to redo the list. You just need to redo this bit where you create the knob. Right? So treat this in the same way that if you create a node, like nuke.create node, that is the node. It's not a way to create the node. It is the node somewhere in your script. So this is the knob somewhere in the script. So it's the knob on this script. Let's get rid of that grade again. So once you put it down there are a number of things you probably want to do with it, and that's all of them involve pulling information off. So the standard methods for pulling information off one of these enumeration knobs is cheese knob. You ask it the value. So when you ask it the value, you get literally what is written here. You can ask it for the values. So you'll get a list of all the possibilities, right? That doesn't change based upon selection, because obviously the list of possibilities doesn't change based upon your selection. You can also ask it a get value, right? You can't do get values, that makes no sense, because obviously values is values. You can ask it a get value. When you ask it a get value, you're going to get a number back. Annoyingly as well, it's a floating point number. We'll get into that in a second. But it references the 3, and top one is 0. So for everyone who's familiar with lists, you'll notice we supplied it a list, and this number corresponds to the index within the list. So first one is 0, next one is 1, the one after that is 2, 3, and 4. So these are your core kind of calls: value, values, and get value. The reason I mentioned get, like you're probably asking, why would I ever use get value? Why do I care about this thing? Why would I not always use value? Well, good question. Get value though is going to also be similar to get value at, where I've left out the time operation, but get value at is where you're going to be in if you're asking, what is the value of this knob at frame 100 or frame 200 or frame anything? If you've got expressions or animation or something like that, value can only give you the value right now. So that's the first reason. The second reason is because often these pull downs are used to drive something else, and the most common one using, say, this would be a switch node. So here I have my handy dandy switch. I'm just going to put a bunch of things here, not because I actually need them, but because I just want the I want a number of options here. All right. So I've got let's do one more. All right, cool. So I've got options numbered from 0 through to 4. So this switch is obviously going to be the expression here. It is group ones dot cheese here, and we don't need to see any of that. And as I change this, it'll change the index of the switch here. So most common, you'd have a number of options here. Say you've got a question about, I don't know, noise on some footage you want to remove. You could have option aggressive, not so aggressive, and don't bother, which would go through a switch, and then you'd have different settings for neat video or different grain removal or other processing treatments. So that's all being driven off a number, because obviously the switch node has no idea what to do if you give it the word conte. It's got no idea what to do if you use the word cheddar. So that's why knowing where the numbers come from is kind of important. A couple interesting gotchas, or a couple interesting situations to come up with here now. First of all, this I've chosen all distinct values. So let's see what happens if I modify this, and we'll add in some duplicates. Let's actually add in some numbers as well. 100, 100, and 100. I do not know if there's a cheese called 100. I would laugh if there is. So yeah. So you'll see this is repeated. It doesn't care if you give it repeated values. So if you ask it value here, it says 100, sure. If you ask it here, it says Stilton. If you ask it here, it says 100, right? So the value call, or the asking the cheese knob what value it is literally going to give you whatever word it is here. It's not the number 100, it's the word 100. But it won't tell you which copy of 100 you have here. So if that's important to you, you will need to use the get value call, and you'll need to know the index 4.0 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's the second instance of the number 100. I don't know why you would work like this, but there are probably reasons. Like I've seen people do things with these drop downs to actually build mini menus. So you'll have, we'll just do it. So let's get rid of the cheeses. So camera A 100, 200, camera B 100, 200, 300, camera C 9,000, like that. So that is it's a weird kind of mini menu thing. I wouldn't do that, but I have seen that done before. So you'll need to be able to distinguish between this and this, right? You can only do that with indexes. The other thing to note as well is when we get values here, So your first reaction is, all right, so we just simply do this. We get the values. Values is a list. We can index it. Great. So we can do this. We can just say, get me all the values, and then index it by the value of it. Let's see what happens. That's actually a slightly annoying thing. Once you hit it once, you'll know how to solve it forevermore. The list index has to be an integer. It cannot be a float. Now, when you ask this thing for a value back, 5.0, for some reason, and I actually think I know why, but it's a digression, it'll always give you back a floating point number. So what you need to do is just wrap that in an integer call. In this case, blindly doing this is fine because you know it's always going to give you a full number. You can't have option 3.2 or 3.7. So that will now work. Right? That is getting the value back. So that's kind of all there is in the core of the enumeration knob. There is one additional gotcha though I would probably demonstrate while we're here. So this is normal, right? So let's make this slightly abnormal. So let's go back to the cheese knob. So let me just comment that out. Set flag. So we're going to set a particular flag on this, which you probably won't. You can't do it. You can't do it unless you're working with Python. Right? The flag is save menu. Okay, I've applied that flag to it. We're just going to see what changes. We'll go backwards. So this we're not going to do. We're just going to say get value. So get value doesn't change. It's not making it any better or worse. It's just still the number. The values don't change, but when you ask it for the value, you just say, what? So if someone has applied the save menu flag, you're going to see this, right? Now, if you are building this node yourself, you'll be in control, so you'll know exactly what's going on. But for example, if you're writing Python on a group node or something, or a gizmo that someone's provided, they may have applied this flag. The reason for this save menu flag is specifically for nodes that can be dynamic, or that list of options is dynamically generated. Because if you remember, let's just clear that flag quickly. The flag. All right. So if I clear the flag and ask the value, it will tell me 100 here. If I say what are the values, it'll tell me this list. If I say what are the value that you've got for this, number 4 is actually what's stored by that node when you save it out. So let's throw that. So here's the group node. All right, excuse the jump cut. I'm going to try to explain this again for the third time. So on this node, everything is back to normal. There's nothing controversial about all these. You ask it the value, you get a value. Now, if you're dealing with someone else's gizmo or group or someone else's code, you might see something weird. So I'll show you how it actually happens. So it all comes down to a particular flag that can be applied. So we're going to set a flag. It's nuke.save menu. So someone set the nuke save menu flag on the node, or sorry, on the knob, not the node. Sorry, not that one. That doesn't get value out. Get value doesn't change. Let's bring that. I'm just going to set it to this one, which is the 0, 1, 2, 3. It should be number 3, right? So get value is 3. Values didn't change. Value, on the other hand, it's this weird string. So what this string is doing is it's actually saving both the index of what it was picked, so the third item in the thing, and it's also saving all the possibilities. So it's effectively a mashing of these two calls together. There are good reasons for this, potentially. I won't go into them because it makes the video really long and I trip over myself trying to explain them. But it does come from a design world where this list of menu items is dynamic, right? So if you imagine the scenario, I take my node, I plug it into a stream, and then from that metadata stream, it calculates a bunch of options and presents them to me. Great, that's actually really nice. When I save that to the Nuke script and I reopen it, maybe something in that thing changes. Maybe it's maybe the list of options is not based upon metadata. Maybe it's based upon the shot you're working on. So for shot ABC123, you might have a particular list of approved grading strategies. So you just go, all right, pick. And then when you reopen the script and you're in another shot, it's actually got a different list of options you should be choosing from. It's that shot's particular treatments. Now that means you've got a dynamic knob. So if we look at quickly here in this value call, it's saving both the index, so it's this indexing, plus at the time when it's saved out, what it could have been. So it means that if you have dynamic knobs, your dynamic knob can change a bunch of stuff, but you kind of have all the pieces you need to reconstruct what it was at the time where it occurred. So if you open this up and let's say it's a GUI only check, you could open, I don't know, there is a good reason for it. I'm just struggling to find a nice canned scenario for you. But if you do get it, be aware, this is what happens. And you'll need to do either use the get values and get value calls. But because you're writing code and you want it to be portable, you almost want to do something like this. And I don't really know if it's pretty like, this is the thing, you could almost do something like, if cheese knob get flag, you know, you could do something. If the cheese knob, then the value equals, you know you've got to do this kind of thing. Get value, yeah, that's right. Else value equals. So if they've saved the menu, then you need to extract it from the list of options. Otherwise, you can just get the value here, and then you can print the value. So we'll run that, and we'll show you the fact that they're all the same. So it's camera B, camera C, camera C. If I clear the flag, still camera C, still the number 200, right? So this code here is saying, if someone's put that flag on, then do it this way, else do it this way. So hopefully your facility has a Python library that allows you to access knobs that does this kind of handy dandy stuff for you, or if you're writing library code, just pop something like that in there, or find another alternative, either is good. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed that one, and I will hopefully be back to making these things a little bit more regularly. Alright, see you guys. Just a quick addendum, I use the word enumerate a lot, and we actually see that in the name of the knob. Right. But I thought I'd just expose this a bit further. So enumerate, if I go into any kind of search engine and look for it, and look for a definition, it is to basically count through or to index something one by one. So let's get that list of cheeses I had. Here we are. So my enjoyable cheeses are this thing. So if I want to go through them one by one, I'm saying first one, second one, third, fourth, fifth. So we are actually enumerating through the list of cheeses. And if we write this in long form Python, let's just do that. For x in the range, x being my throwaway number. In fact, let me just, yeah, I'll use the x. So we want to start at 0, and we want to go through to the length of the enjoyable cheeses. Right? And we'll just print that out. So you can see I've got the 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. No, so I've just counted through from 0 to 4. That's all we're doing. When we use enumeration, that's kind of the core of what we're doing. We can write this as well using a function that helps us do this. For x in range, not range, from enumerate. Enumerate the enjoyable cheeses. Print x. So all I've done for this code is I've changed the word range for enumerate. You'll notice for the range I had to say start at 0, end at len. This one I'm not. I'm just saying just go through it. And you can see it's just giving me that list. The 0th item is Comte, 1 is Cheddar, 2 is Stilton, 3 is the Protoss Cannon Rush, and 4 is Brunost. So that's what the enumerations is doing for us. And that's also why the knob is called it's called an enumeration knob, because it's literally, if you think about it, it's doing the same thing. It's taking a list that you supply and it's basically putting them in order and it's giving them a number. 0 is the top one, 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way down. So that's probably why it's called an enumeration knob rather than a drop down, because it's associating an index, so 0 or 1 or 2, with a value here which is in this list. So yeah, enumeration.